The jungle of Vera 9 moved like a living ocean. Tall crystal trees swayed slowly under a sky filled with pale green light, and glowing insects drifted through the air like tiny stars. Every sound echoed softly, from distant animal calls to the rustle of leaves under running feet. Leary ran as fast as her thin legs allowed, her breath coming in quick, frightened bursts. Her silver-blue skin shimmered faintly, reacting to fear and exhaustion. She had been running for hours, maybe longer. Time felt strange now. All she knew was that she had to keep moving. Behind her, somewhere beyond the thick vines and jagged rocks, hunters searched the jungle. Her people were not fighters. The Karath survived by hiding, by blending into their environment, by staying unnoticed. But today, hiding had failed. A loud cracking sound echoed behind her, and she froze for a moment, ears twitching. The jungle went quiet, as if holding its breath. She whispered to herself, trying to stay calm, but panic crawled into her thoughts again. Stories filled her mind, stories about humans, dangerous omnivores, survivors who thrived in impossible environments, creatures who could eat almost anything. The thought made her shiver. Then she heard something new, not the heavy steps of hunters, but a soft, metallic sound. Curious and desperate, she moved toward it, pushing through glowing vines until she reached a small clearing. In the center lay a damaged metal pod, half buried in dirt and broken branches. Smoke rose slowly from one side. A human exploration pod. Leary's heart pounded harder. Every instinct told her to run away, but her body refused. She was too tired, too injured, and too afraid of what waited behind her. A figure moved beside the wreckage. The human sat calmly, tools spread around him. He adjusted wires and panels with focused attention, as if he were fixing something ordinary instead of surviving a crash on an alien world. He looked up suddenly, sensing movement. Their eyes met. Time froze. Fear exploded inside Leary, and before she could think, the translator around her neck activated automatically. "Don't eat me, human!" The words came out louder than she intended. The human blinked in surprise, then his expression softened. Instead of aggression, he smiled slightly, almost amused. "Not like you think," he said gently. His voice was calm, steady, without threat. Leary stepped back, unsure. Humans were supposed to be terrifying, predators. Yet this one moved slowly, raising his hands slightly to show he meant no harm. "I'm not going to hurt you," he added. She watched carefully. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with dark clothing marked by scratches and dirt. A small cut ran across his cheek, but he ignored it. He reached toward a container and pulled out a water pack, setting it on the ground between them before stepping back. "You look exhausted," he said. "You can take it." She hesitated, studying every movement. Nothing about him felt aggressive. Still, fear held her frozen. The jungle suddenly echoed with distant mechanical noise, a faint hum. Her body reacted before her mind. She flinched and looked over her shoulder. Hunters. The human noticed immediately. "You're being chased?" he asked quietly. She nodded. His expression changed. The gentle calm remained, but something sharper appeared behind his eyes, focused determination. "Okay," he said softly. "Then we should move." Before she could respond, he gathered his tools quickly, slinging a pack over his shoulder. He glanced at her again, waiting. She didn't understand why he was helping her. Humans were unpredictable, dangerous, but staying here meant being captured. Slowly, cautiously, she moved closer and grabbed the water pack. The cool liquid helped clear her thoughts slightly. "My name is Elias," he said as they started walking away from the crash site. "I'm a rescuer, or at least I try to be." She followed at a short distance, unsure but desperate. "Leary," she said after a moment. He nodded, accepting the introduction without question. They moved through the jungle together, Elias choosing paths that avoided open ground. He seemed comfortable here, almost at home. He watched the environment constantly, reading signs she couldn't see. "How long have they been chasing you?" he asked. Since the sky burned," she said, struggling to explain. "Ships came, loud weapons, my colony scattered." Elias' jaw tightened slightly. "Mercenaries," he muttered. "Figures." She didn't know what that meant, but she sensed anger beneath his calm. As they walked, she studied him secretly. He moved quietly for someone so large. He avoided stepping on fragile plants, carefully shifting branches so they wouldn't snap loudly. Not like a predator, more like a guardian. The thought confused her. They reached a small stream where he paused. He checked the area carefully before kneeling to refill his container. "You're safe with me," he said without looking at her. "I know humans have a reputation." She lowered her gaze, embarrassed. My people tell stories, she admitted. Yeah, he said softly, most of them exaggerated. A faint smile crossed his face. I do eat, he added lightly, but not people. She felt a strange sensation, relief mixed with confusion. They continued walking. The jungle slowly grew darker as evening approached. Bioluminescent plants began glowing softly, turning the path into a river of color. Leary stumbled suddenly, her injured leg giving out. Before she fell completely, Elias caught her gently. His grip was firm but careful, supporting her without squeezing too tightly. You're hurt, he said quietly. It is nothing, she insisted, but pain betrayed her voice. He crouched and examined the wound, cleaning it with practiced hands. Not nothing, he said calmly. But fixable, she watched in silence as he worked. His touch was respectful, focused on helping rather than controlling. Why help me? She asked finally. He paused for a moment. Because you needed help, he replied simply. The answer felt too simple, yet completely honest. They reached a sheltered area beneath massive roots and prepared to rest. Elias set up a small energy shield that shimmered faintly, protecting them from predators. As night settled around them, Leary realized she was no longer trembling with fear. Instead, curiosity replaced it. Humans were supposed to be monsters, but this one was different. Far away, unseen eyes watched their position through scanning devices. The hunt was far from over. And the human who smiled calmly in the darkness had no idea that his small act of kindness was about to change more than one life forever. The night on Vera 9 was not truly dark. It was a deep, breathing shade of blue, lit by soft, glowing plants and drifting insects that pulsed like tiny lanterns. The jungle sounded different after sunset, too. In the day, it was loud and busy. At night, it became careful, as if every creature was listening. Leary lay beneath the huge roots with her back against a smooth piece of bark. The small shield Elias had placed around them shimmered faintly, like thin glass. It did not block the sounds of the forest, but it made her feel like there was a boundary between them and the unknown. Elias sat a few steps away, checking a small device with a cracked screen. He was quiet but not tense. He looked like a person who had already accepted the danger and simply planned to outthink it. Leary watched him in silence. She still expected her fear to return, but it did not come the same way. The fear had changed shape. It was no longer fear of him. It was fear for what might happen to him because he had helped her. The idea made her uncomfortable because she did not understand why she cared. Elias noticed her stare without turning his head. You should try to sleep, he said softly. I cannot, she replied. He nodded as if that was normal. Then rest your eyes at least. She hesitated, then asked the question that had been turning in her mind. You said humans have a reputation. Why? Elias gave a quiet breath, like a small laugh without humor. Because people see what scares them and turn it into a story. He held up the device. It made a faint clicking sound, searching for a signal. My ship is not answering. Pod is damaged, beacon is weak. Leary understood only parts, but she caught the important meaning. They were alone. Are you scared? She asked. Elias finally looked at her. His eyes were tired but steady. Sure, he said. I'm human, I get scared. The difference is I still move. His answer felt strange. The Kareth did not speak like that. They avoided danger by never being seen. They did not believe in moving toward danger. She lowered her gaze. My people hide. That's not wrong, Elias said. It kept you alive until now. Leary wanted to believe him, but shame still sat inside her. She had run. She had lost her colony. She had done nothing to stop the hunters. She felt small, like a leaf in a storm. Elias turned his device off and leaned back against the root, letting his head rest. Get some water, he said. Small sips, don't make yourself sick. She obeyed. As she drank, she listened closely. The jungle did not sound safe, but it sounded honest. It did not pretend to be kind. It was simply alive. A distant hum drifted through the trees. Leary froze. Elias sat upright instantly, alert. He did not panic. He just became sharper. Drones, he whispered. The hum grew louder, then faded, then returned as if something was circling. Leary's breathing became shallow. They found us. Not yet, Elias said quietly, but they're close. He reached into his pack and pulled out a small object that looked like a simple metal disc. He set it near the edge of the shield. What is that? She asked. Noise bait, he answered. If a drone gets too close, it will chase this instead of us. Leary stared. How can a small disc stop them? It can't stop them, Elias corrected gently, but it can confuse them. He paused, then added, Humans are good at confusing things that are bigger than us. The hum passed again, closer now. Leary clenched her hands, preparing to run. Elias lifted one finger, telling her to stay still. He slowly reached for another device, this one shaped like a thin rod. He touched it to the ground, then pressed a button. Nothing happened at first. Then, several meters away, a patch of plants glowed brighter, pulsing in an unnatural rhythm. The glow moved like a small animal darting through the undergrowth. The drone's hum shifted direction. Leary watched in disbelief as the sound moved away. Elias exhaled slowly. "Okay," he whispered. "We leave now. Quiet." They packed quickly. Elias moved like someone who had done this many times, even under stress. Leary did her best to follow his gestures and keep her steps light. They slipped through the jungle as the false glow continued to lead the drone away. The shield behind them faded, leaving no obvious trace. Leary kept close now, not because Elias told her to, but because she wanted to. She felt safer near him than she had felt all day. After an hour of careful walking, Elias stopped near a rocky ridge. He crouched and listened, then looked up into the trees. "What?" Leary whispered. Elias pointed to a faint line of darkness that did not match the natural shadows. "Trip wire," he said. "They set traps." Leary's stomach tightened. "Why would they trap the jungle?" "To catch you," Elias replied. Then he added, "and to catch anyone who helps you." That last part made her chest feel tight. He moved around the wire, then used a thin tool to cut a small branch and throw it gently onto the line from a distance. A soft click echoed, and somewhere ahead a net of woven fiber snapped upward, then fell uselessly. Leary stared. "If you did not see it?" "Yeah," Elias said. "Then we'd be hanging upside down and having a bad night." He looked at her, and for a moment there was humor in his eyes. It surprised her. Even in danger, he could still smile. They climbed the ridge slowly, using rocks as cover. From the top, the jungle spread out like a sea of glowing dots. In the far distance, a faint red light blinked slowly. Elias narrowed his eyes. "That might be their camp." Leary's body went cold. "If they are there, my colony might be there too." Elias' jaw tightened. "Then we'll be careful." His words were simple, but they carried weight, not empty promises, planning. They descended the ridge and moved again, now slower, watching every shadow. Leary noticed how Elias used his senses. He touched tree bark to feel vibration. He watched the sky for reflection off metal. He listened for unnatural rhythm. She realized something then. Humans did not survive because they were the strongest. They survived because they paid attention, adapted, and refused to give up. In the early hours before dawn, they reached a shallow cave hidden behind hanging vines. Elias pulled the vines aside and guided Leary inside. The cave was dry and warm. The air smelled like stone, not jungle. Elias checked it for signs of animals, then nodded. "Good," he said. "We rest here for a bit." Leary sat on the ground, exhausted. Elias pulled out a small ration pack and offered her part of it. She stared at the food warily. It smelled strange, like dried grains. "It's plant-based," he said quickly, understanding her worry. "You can eat it." She hesitated, then took a small bite. It was bland, but it gave her energy. It also made her realize another strange truth. Humans carried food that they could share. The Kareth did not travel like this. They did not plan for long journeys. They did not expect to survive alone. Elias drank water and leaned back. "You asked earlier why humans have a reputation." She nodded. He looked toward the cave entrance, as if watching the world even while talking. "Some species here we eat meat and assume we eat everything. Some see we fight when we must and assume we fight for fun. Some see we colonize harsh planets and assume we want to take everything." He paused. "But most of the time, we're just trying to build a life." Leary's translator struggled to keep up with his tone. Still, she understood enough to feel something soften inside her. "You said you hunger for other things," she whispered, remembering his earlier words. Elias glanced at her, surprised she remembered. "Yeah," he said. He took a moment, choosing simple words. "Humans are restless. We want to know, we want to fix, we want to protect. Some of us want to prove ourselves, some want to be useful, some want to belong." He gave a small shrug. "Sometimes that makes us dangerous, sometimes it makes us heroes, usually it makes us complicated." Leary stared at him. The idea of hunger for belonging felt strange, yet familiar. Her colony was belonging. Without it, she felt like a broken piece. "What do you hunger for?" she asked. Elias looked down at his hands. There were small cuts and stains from the jungle. "I think I hunger for meaning," he said. "To show up when things go wrong, to help, even if it's messy." Leary's throat tightened. You did not have to help me. No, he agreed. But I wanted to. She did not know what to say to that. They rested in silence for a while. Leary's eyes began to close, but the danger kept her half awake. She drifted between sleep and awareness. Then Elias stiffened. He raised his hand, signaling her to stay quiet. Leary instantly became fully awake. She listened. At first, she heard nothing. Then she heard it, faint footsteps outside the cave. Not heavy, but careful, not an animal. Elias slowly reached for a small light tool and turned it off. Darkness filled the cave. He leaned close to Leary and whispered, "Don't move, don't breathe loud." Her heart hammered, but she forced herself to be still. The footsteps paused outside. A shadow moved across the vines. A thin beam of scanning light swept through the entrance, gliding over stone. Leary's body wanted to run, but she remained frozen. Elias did something unexpected. He picked up a small pebble and gently tossed it deeper into the cave. It clicked against rock. The scanning light shifted slightly inward, focusing. In that instant, Elias moved like a sudden storm. He grabbed a small smoke capsule, rolled it toward the entrance, and pulled Leary toward the back wall. The capsule burst with a soft hiss, filling the entrance area with thick mist. A voice outside shouted in a harsh alien language. Elias stayed calm. He guided Leary to a narrow crack in the stone wall that she had not noticed. "Here," he whispered. "Small passage." Leary looked at it in panic. It was narrow, but she could fit. Elias pushed his pack through first, then motioned for her to go. She crawled, scraping her elbows, heart racing. The passage led into a tighter space behind the cave, barely tall enough to crouch. Elias followed, moving faster than she thought possible for someone his size. He squeezed through with controlled effort and pulled the vines back into place from behind a thin gap. Outside, footsteps approached the entrance. A harsh voice spoke again. A drone hummed close, scanning. Leary trembled silently. Elias placed one hand near her shoulder, not gripping, just steadying. The touch felt grounding, like a promise without words. The drone hovered in front of the cave. The scanning beam swept again. For a terrifying moment it paused. Then the drone emitted a short chirping sound and moved away. The footsteps followed. The danger drifted into the jungle like a storm passing. Leary's lungs finally released air. She realized she had been holding her breath. Elias waited another full minute before moving. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet. "That was close." Leary nodded, unable to form words. They crawled back into the cave carefully, checking the entrance. The smoke had thinned, leaving the air damp and cold. Leary looked at Elias with wide eyes. "How did you know?" Elias rubbed his forehead. "I didn't know, I guessed." He gave her a small, tired smile. "Humans do a lot of guessing." Leary felt something shift inside her. Humans were not fearless. They were brave in a different way. They moved anyway. As morning light began to filter through the vines, Elias gathered their things. "We can't stay here," he said. "They're searching in patterns. They'll come back." Leary stood slowly, her legs still sore but better. They moved again, deeper into the jungle. The blinking red light in the distance grew brighter now, and they began to hear faint mechanical sounds, generators, drones, voices. They reached a ridge overlooking a small clearing where several temporary structures stood. Metal tents, landing pads, machines. Leary's stomach dropped. In the center, surrounded by crates, stood a fenced enclosure. Inside it, several Karath huddled close together. Leary's breath caught. "My people," Elias' expression hardened, not with rage that blinded him, but with cold focus. He studied the camp carefully. "They're alive," he said. "That matters." Leary's hands shook. "We must free them." Elias nodded slowly, but his eyes stayed on the camp. "We will," he said, "but not by charging in, not by being heroes in a stupid way." He took a small device from his pack and adjusted it, watching the camp's signals. "They have sensors, drones, probably alarms. We need an exit plan and a distraction." Leary swallowed. "I do not know how to fight." Elias looked at her and his tone softened. "Then don't fight." "Help me think," she blinked. "Think." "Yes," he said. "Humans aren't the only ones with brains." The words were simple, but they gave her something she had lost, a feeling that she could be useful. Leary forced herself to focus. She studied the clearing. There was a fuel unit near the landing pad, connected by pipes. There were supply crates stacked high near the fence. There were 2 guards at the gate and 1 drone floating above. There was also something else, an old stone structure at the edge of the clearing, half covered in vines. It looked ancient, not built by mercenaries. It did not match their metal camp at all. "What is that?" Leary whispered. Elias followed her gaze. His face changed slightly. That, he said quietly, looks like pre-contact ruins. Leary's eyes widened. This planet has old places, yes. My people avoid them, they wake things. Elias stared at the stone with cautious interest. Waking things might be exactly what we need, he muttered, then quickly added, in a controlled way, maybe. Leary did not like the way he said maybe. Elias looked back at the fenced Karath. We're going to get them out, he said again, more firmly now, but we do it smart. He shifted his pack and checked his remaining tools. We wait until their shift change, he said. Most groups get lazy when they think they own the area. Leary watched him plan, and she realized something else about humans. They did not just protect with strength. They protected with patience. They lay low, they observed, they prepared. They used time like a weapon. Hours passed as they hid and watched. Leary's mind kept drifting to her captured colony. She saw familiar faces, small bodies huddled with fear. She wanted to cry out to them, but she remained silent. Finally, in the late afternoon, the camp changed rhythm. 2 guards walked away. 2 new ones arrived. A supply drone lowered to deliver a crate, then rose again. Elias leaned close. Now, he whispered. He pulled out a small metal disc and set it on the ground. He tapped it twice. It blinked faintly. Then he pointed to a path along the edge of the clearing. We move to the fence. Quiet. Stay behind me. Leary nodded, fear roaring back, but now it was mixed with something new. Trust, they crept down the slope using tall grass and shadows. The drone above turned slowly, scanning in lazy circles. Elias timed every step with the drone's rotation. When it looked away, they moved. When it turned back, they froze. Leary copied him, heart pounding so hard she thought it would give them away. They reached the fence's shadow. The metal mesh was tall, with a small lock panel at the gate. Elias examined it quickly. He pulled out a thin tool and started working, his hands steady. Leary kept watch. A guard stood only a short distance away, talking to another guard. Their voices were harsh and careless. The lock panel made a soft beep. Elias froze. Leary's blood turned cold. The guards looked toward the gate. Elias did not panic. He tapped the panel again, and the beep changed pitch. Then, far on the other side of the clearing, another beep sounded, louder, more urgent. The guards turned and hurried toward the distant sound. Leary stared at Elias in shock. He had created a false alarm somewhere else. Elias' lips twitched in a tiny smile. Told you, he whispered. We confuse things bigger than us. The gate clicked open. Elias pulled it just enough for them to slip inside, then closed it silently behind them. They were in the camp now. And the fence holding Leary's people was only a few steps away. But as Elias guided her forward, a shadow moved near the ancient stone ruin. A tall figure stepped into view, larger than the other mercenaries, wearing heavier armor, moving with command. The mercenary commander had arrived. He looked across the camp with sharp eyes as if he could feel something wrong in the air. Then his gaze shifted toward the fence, toward Elias, toward Leary, and he smiled, not a friendly smile. A confident one, like someone who believed the hunt was already won. Leary's breath caught in her throat. Elias' face did not change, but his body became still, ready. The jungle seemed to hold its breath again, as if the planet itself was watching what the human would do next. The air inside the mercenary camp felt heavier than the jungle outside. Machines hummed quietly, and the smell of metal mixed with the earthy scent of plants crushed under heavy boots. Leary's heart pounded so loudly she thought everyone could hear it. The fence stood only a few steps away now, and beyond it her people huddled together, their shimmering skin dull with fear. Elias moved slowly, carefully, as if every step had been planned long before he took it. His eyes flicked from shadow to shadow, measuring distance, timing movement. The commander's presence changed everything. The man stood near the ancient stone structure, tall and confident, speaking quietly into a device on his wrist. Leary swallowed hard. He sees us, she whispered. Elias did not answer immediately. He tilted his head slightly, observing. The commander's gaze moved across the clearing, searching but not yet focused fully on them. That small delay was the only advantage they had. Stay close, Elias murmured. He crouched near the fence and pulled out his thin tool again. The lock panel blinked faintly. Leary watched as his fingers moved with careful precision. The soft clicks sounded loud to her ears, but the camp noises covered them. Inside the enclosure, one of the Karath noticed Leary. Their eyes widened in shock, then hope. Leary pressed one finger to her lips, signaling silence. The Karath nodded quickly, understanding. The lock released with a quiet snap. Elias opened the gates slowly, just enough for the first Karath to slip through. Leary helped guide them out, whispering reassurance. Fear and relief mixed in their movements, but they stayed quiet. One by one, they exited the enclosure. Leary felt tears burn behind her eyes. She had not expected to see them alive again. Suddenly, a loud voice echoed across the clearing. "I wondered when you would show yourself, human." The commander's voice was calm, almost amused. Elias stood slowly, turning to face him. The mercenary commander approached with unhurried steps, surrounded by two armed guards. His armor reflected the green light of the jungle, making him look larger than he already was. Leary felt her body freeze. The commander's eyes studied Elias with sharp interest. "You are exactly as described," he said. "Persistent, clever, annoying." Elias' expression stayed calm. "You've been busy," he replied. "Business is profitable," the commander said. He gestured toward the freed Karath. "And you just damaged my investment." Elias stepped slightly forward, positioning himself between the commander and the Karath without making a dramatic move. "They're not property." The commander smiled thinly. "Everything is property if someone stronger decides it is." Leary felt anger spark inside her. The words felt wrong in a deep way she could not explain. Elias shook his head slightly. "That's where you misunderstand humans." The commander laughed softly. "Oh, I understand humans very well. You pretend to be noble, but you are just predators wearing masks." Elias' voice remained steady. "We are predators," he said, "but we choose what that means." The commander's smile faded slightly. "And what does it mean today?" Elias did not answer with words. Instead, he pressed a button on a small device hidden in his hand. A sudden loud alarm erupted on the far side of the camp. Lights flashed red. One of the generators sparked violently, sending a plume of smoke into the air. The guards turned instinctively toward the noise. Elias moved instantly. He grabbed Leary's arm and motioned for the Karath to run toward the jungle edge. "Go!" he shouted. Chaos exploded around them. Mercenaries shouted orders. Drones lifted into the air, scanning wildly. Leary ran with the others, her legs burning. She glanced back and saw Elias moving with controlled speed, guiding them while throwing small devices behind him that released bursts of light and sound, confusing the sensors. They reached the edge of the clearing, but the commander moved faster than expected. He stepped into their path, weapon raised but not firing. "You think tricks will save you?" he asked calmly. Elias stopped, breathing steady. "They already are." The commander's weapon hummed softly, ready to fire. Leary felt cold fear spread through her body. "Step aside," Elias said quietly. The commander tilted his head. "No." For a long moment, neither moved. Then the ground trembled. A low vibration rolled through the clearing, growing stronger with each second. The commander's expression changed. "What did you do?" Elias glanced toward the ancient stone structure. "I woke something," he said. The ruins began to glow faintly, lines of light spreading across the stone like veins. The ground shifted as hidden mechanisms deep beneath the jungle activated for the first time in centuries. Panels rose from the earth, releasing waves of energy that disrupted mercenary technology. Drones fell from the sky, their lights flickering out. Weapons lost power, emitting weak sparks. The commander stared in disbelief. "You activated alien defenses?" Elias shrugged slightly. "You said my kind was dangerous." The jungle itself seemed to awaken. Energy pulses moved through the trees, targeting machinery but leaving living beings untouched. Mercenaries shouted in panic as their equipment failed. Elias used the moment. "Move," he told the Karath. They ran into the jungle, using thick vines and natural cover to escape the camp. Leary stayed close beside Elias, her mind racing. Behind them, the commander's voice roared with frustration, but he could not follow easily without functioning equipment. They ran for what felt like hours until the sounds of the camp faded into distant echoes. Finally, Elias slowed, breathing heavily. "We need to stop soon," he said. They reached a quiet clearing where sunlight filtered through the canopy. The Karath gathered together, trembling but alive. Leary turned to Elias. "You saved them," she said softly. "We saved them," he corrected. She shook her head slightly. "Without you," he interrupted gently. "You helped plan, you stayed brave, that matters." Leary felt warmth spread through her chest. A distant sound reached them, a deep rumble from the sky. Elias looked up, eyes narrowing. A ship descended slowly through the clouds, its hull marked with rescue insignia. The beacon had finally worked. Relief flooded through him. The ship landed nearby and human rescuers emerged, scanning the area quickly before relaxing when they saw Elias. "You look like you had fun," one of them joked. Elias smiled tiredly. "Something like that." The Karath watched the humans with curiosity and fear, but Leary stepped forward, raising her voice. "They are friends," she said firmly. The words surprised even her. As the rescuers began helping the Karath aboard, Leary turned back to Elias. "When I first saw you," she said quietly, "I thought you would eat me." Elias laughed softly. "Yeah, I remember," she smiled faintly. "You were right, not like I think," he nodded. "Humans are complicated." She looked at him with new understanding. "Humans hunger for connection," she said. Elias seemed surprised, then nodded slowly. "Yeah, that sounds right." As the ship lifted off, Leary watched the jungle fade below them. The fear she had carried for humans felt distant now, replaced by respect and something deeper. Later, when she returned to her colony, she told them about the human who had chosen to protect instead of conquer. Her story spread beyond her world, changing how many species viewed humanity. Some still feared humans, some still misunderstood, but more began to see the truth. Humans were not simply predators. They were guardians when they chose to be. And sometimes their greatest hunger was not for survival or dominance, but for helping others stand again. Far away, Elias stood by a window of the rescue ship, watching the stars pass. He felt tired but satisfied. He had not come to be a hero, he had simply shown up. And sometimes that was enough.